Angel had never disobeyed a command in 3 years of service until that night at the airport. She lunged at a baby stroller, barking nonstop, refusing to back down even as the mother screamed and passengers scrambled in panic. At first, everyone assumed the dog had simply lost control, but when Officer Mercer lifted the baby's blanket, what he found beneath sent airport security into chaos and revealed a story far deeper than anyone expected. So what exactly was hidden under that stroller pad, and why was it there in the first place? First, hit that subscribe button and drop a comment below telling us where in the world you're watching from. Now, without further ado, let's get into it. The fluorescent lights of San Francisco International Airport's Terminal G cast harsh shadows across the polished floor as passengers from the late Seoul flight shuffled through customs. Officer Ethan Mercer watched his K-9 partner, Angel, a sleek Belgian Malinois with intelligent amber eyes, perform her routine inspection of the queue. Nothing about this final flight seemed unusual, until Angel's demeanor changed in an instant. Without warning, the disciplined customs dog jerked her head toward a young woman pushing a baby stroller. Angel's ears pricked forward, her body tensed, and before Mercer could tighten his grip on the leash, she lunged forward with startling force. "Angel, heel!" Mercer commanded. But it was too late. The K-9 leapt directly toward the stroller, front paws landing on its edge as the woman screamed and jumped backward. The stroller tipped, sending a blue baby blanket sliding to the floor, revealing not just the crying infant, but something metallic gleaming beneath the child. The woman's face drained of color as Mercer caught a glimpse of what had been hidden. "Gun! Everybody down!" security personnel shouted, hands reaching for weapons as travelers scattered in panic. What had begun as a routine customs check had just revealed something that would send airport security racing into action and change multiple lives forever. Officer Ethan Mercer hadn't planned on a career in customs and border protection. A training accident had ended his Marine Corps career, leaving him with a titanium rod in his right leg and a search for purpose that eventually led him to the CBP. His partner, Angel, had an equally unlikely story. Found abandoned near the Arizona border, most handlers had passed over the stray with an unknown history until Mercer recognized her extraordinary intuition. "She's got street smarts," Mercer had told his supervisor when requesting to work with her. "That's not something you can train." Their 3 years together had proven his instincts correct. What Angel lacked in pedigree, she made up for with an uncanny ability to read human behavior. While other K-9s track scents with textbook precision, Angel seemed to detect deception itself, subtle shifts in posture, micro-expressions, or nervous gestures that often escaped human notice. Their partnership had been forged through countless hours of training and real-world experience. The breakthrough came early during a routine practice sweep, when Angel suddenly veered off from a planted training scent to alert on a maintenance worker's bag, something that wasn't part of the exercise. Security found prescription medications containing chemical compounds that could be used in improvised explosives, items the worker had forgotten to declare, but that represented a genuine security concern. She wasn't wrong, the head trainer had acknowledged after initially scolding Mercer for allowing Angel to break protocol. She was being thorough. Today had started with their usual pre-shift ritual. Mercer picked up Angel from the K-9 facility at 5 a.m., took her for a brisk run along the airport perimeter road, then spent 30 minutes on refresher training before clocking in for their 7 a.m. shift. "Looking sharp today," Supervisor Garcia commented as they passed the security checkpoint. "Big plans for the weekend, taking Angel hiking up at Point Reyes," Mercer replied, scratching his partner behind the ears. "She's been cooped up too much with all the overtime we've been pulling." The day proceeded with the typical rhythm of international arrivals. A nervous college student returning from Amsterdam was caught with marijuana. A businessman from Mexico City attempted to smuggle in undeclared jewelry. A family returning from Southeast Asia was stopped for carrying prohibited fruit in their carry-on. Through it all, Angel performed with her usual discipline and intuition, positioning herself strategically to anticipate potential flight responses before they even happened. "That dog of yours is something else," Officer Chen remarked during their lunch break. "The way she stared down that guy trying to skip the declaration line, I swear he started confessing before you even questioned him." Mercer smiled, slipping Angel a small treat under the table. "She's got a sixth sense about people, knows who's hiding something before they even realize they're giving themselves away." As their shift wore on into evening, both Mercer and Angel settled into the comfortable fatigue of a productive day. One more flight, the late arrival from Seoul, and they could clock out. Angel had seemed slightly restless during the final hour, pacing more than usual during quiet moments, occasionally whining softly. The 11:15 p.m. arrival from Seoul had been delayed by thunderstorms over the Pacific, pushing their shift nearly an hour past its scheduled end. Terminal G gradually emptied as other flights completed processing, leaving only a skeleton crew for the final arrival. "Last one, girl," Mercer murmured, scratching behind Angel's ear as they watched the gate doors. "Then we're free for 2 whole days." Halfway through processing the passengers, Angel's demeanor shifted. Her ears pricked forward, her head turning sharply toward the far end of the terminal where a muffled child's cry echoed. Mercer followed her gaze to a woman who had just entered, pushing a navy blue stroller with one hand while clutching a large shoulder bag with the other. Something about the woman immediately caught Mercer's attention. Unlike typical travel fatigue, her movements were jittery, her eyes constantly scanning with rapid, darting glances. Despite the cool air conditioning, sweat glistened on her forehead. Her fingers gripped the stroller handle with white-knuckle intensity. "Angel, check," Mercer said quietly. The Malinois responded instantly, moving into her screening pattern, nose working the air as they circled toward the woman. A low growl emerged from Angel's throat as the baby inside the stroller let out another cry, a sound of discomfort rather than typical fussiness. The woman's reaction to Angel's approach was equally telling. Most passengers either ignored the K9 or watched with mild curiosity. This woman immediately tried to maneuver the stroller away, putting distance between Angel and the baby with an urgency that seemed excessive. "Is there a problem?" she called out, her voice pitched too high. "Can you keep that dog away from my baby, please?" "Just routine, ma'am," Mercer replied, keeping his tone casual. "Where are you arriving from today?" "Seoul," she answered, too quickly. "Direct flight." "Beautiful baby you've got there," Mercer said, taking a step to the side as if merely continuing his patrol. "Boy or girl?" "Boy," the woman answered, attempting a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "He's 7 months old." "He seems uncomfortable," Mercer observed, noting how the infant squirmed and fussed in the stroller. The baby let out another sharp cry, and this time, Mercer saw something shift unnaturally beneath the blanket, something that shouldn't be there. "Long flight for a little one," Mercer said, keeping his voice calm. "He has a bit of a stomach ache," the woman, Melissa Chen, explained too quickly. "Plus, the pressure changes during landing. The flight attendants tried to help, but nothing seemed to work." Mercer nodded sympathetically. "First time flying with him?" "Yes," she replied, relief flashing across her face at the excuse for her nervousness. "I've been a wreck about it for days. His first flight, and of course, it ends up delayed." Angel circled closer, her nose twitching. The woman yanked the stroller back. "Could you please call your dog off?" she demanded, panic sharpening her words. I don't want him frightening the baby. Angel's very gentle with children, Mercer lied smoothly. She's actually specially trained to be around infants. The woman's grip on the stroller tightened. Still, I'd prefer if she stayed away. Angel let out a soft whine, a sound Mercer knew well. Frustration. Certainty. He checked her documents again. Melissa Chen, Benjamin Chen, 7 months. The baby's cries were too shrill, too strained. And the blanket. It didn't move right. There was something rigid beneath it, restricting the infant's movements. Mind if I take a quick look? Mercer kept his tone light. Sometimes buckles get twisted during flights. No. Her voice cracked. I mean, he's fine. I just changed him in the airplane bathroom. He just needs his crib. Angel's posture shifted, rigid, unyielding. She had never fixated on a baby like this before. That's a nice necklace, Mercer remarked, nodding at the gold cross around her throat. Her hand flew to it. It was my mother's. The baby wailed again, a sound of real distress. Mercer dropped the act. Ma'am, he said firmly, my dog is indicating something's wrong. And your son is clearly uncomfortable. I need to check that stroller. Fear flashed in her eyes. Then outrage. You're harassing a single mother because your dog is poorly trained? Mercer tugged Angel's leash. Come, Angel. For the first time in 3 years, his partner refused. Angel planted her paws and barked, sharp, urgent, echoing through the terminal. Officers turned. Supervisor Garcia strode over. Control your dog, the woman hissed, face flushing. Mercer's pulse spiked. Angel had never disobeyed. Unless… Sir, he said to Garcia, voice low. Angel's alerting to the stroller, strongly. Garcia's gaze flicked to the woman, then the crying infant. He gave a tight nod. That was all Mercer needed. He reached for the blanket. The woman screamed. And that's when everything went wrong. Angel's entire body vibrated with tension as Mercer reached for the blue blanket. The woman, Melissa Chen, let out a choked sob, but didn't stop him this time. Mercer lifted the blanket and froze. Beneath the fabric, nestled where the baby's legs should have been, was a rectangular metal case, the kind used to transport medical samples. Wires snaked from its sides, connecting to a small digital display blinking 00:59, 00:58. A bomb. The baby's legs were bound tightly against his torso with medical tape, the rigid case strapped beneath him. His tiny socks were soaked with sweat from being pressed against the cold metal. Jesus Christ! Garcia's radio was already at his lips. Code Black, Terminal G, Secondary Inspection. I repeat, Code Black. The woman collapsed against the wall, clutching the infant to her chest. They have my sister. She wept. They said they'd kill her if I didn't get this through security. Alarms blared as security teams evacuated the terminal. Mercer's training kicked in, but Angel moved faster. The Malinois lunged, not at the woman, but at the stroller. Her teeth clamped onto the metal case, yanking it free from the straps as the timer hit 00:30. Angel, drop it! Mercer roared. She didn't obey. Instead, the dog bolted, streaking past stunned officers. The device clamped in her jaws, racing toward the reinforced baggage claim corridor as the countdown hit in 00:05. The last thing Mercer saw was Angel's amber eyes meeting his. Calm, certain, before the world went white. Screen cuts to black. 48 hours earlier, Incheon Airport, South Korea. A man in an airport maintenance uniform slides an identical metal case into an empty stroller whispering, "The American will never suspect a mother." Angel was already there, nose working intently over the baby blanket. Mercer carefully lifted it, revealing what appeared to be a standard stroller pad beneath. But as he ran his hand over the padding, he felt something unmistakable, a hard, unnatural shape beneath the fabric. Using his pocket knife, he carefully cut a small slit in the pad seam, then pulled the opening wider. His breath caught as the metallic gleam of a handgun became visible, secured to the stroller's frame beneath the padding. Not just any handgun, a Glock 19, loaded with the safety off. "Gun," he announced calmly, immediately stepping back and drawing his service weapon. "Ma'am, please place the baby in the stroller and step away." The color drained from her face. "It's not what you think?" "Place the baby in the stroller now," Garcia repeated, his hand also moving to his weapon. Tears streamed down the woman's face as she gently placed the now sleeping infant back in the stroller, carefully avoiding the exposed weapon. "He doesn't know," she whispered. "He had nothing to do with this." "Step back and place your hands behind your head," Mercer instructed, maintaining his professional demeanor despite the adrenaline surging through his system. She complied, her body seeming to fold in on itself as she assumed the position. Garcia quickly secured her with handcuffs while Mercer called for additional officers and an evidence team. "Melissa Chen, you're being detained for bringing an undeclared firearm through an international border," Garcia informed her, reciting her rights as Mercer carefully secured the weapon. Upon closer inspection, the gun's serial number had been filed off, indicating it was likely stolen or intended for illegal use. Beneath the stroller padding, they also discovered a small plastic bag containing additional ammunition. As Officer Ramirez gently lifted the baby, checking him for any injuries, Mercer knelt beside Angel, who had finally relaxed now that the hidden threat had been revealed. "Good girl," he whispered, running his hand along her sleek coat. "You knew all along." The Malinois leaned against his leg briefly, their private moment of acknowledgement, before returning to the professional distance required during processing. Miss Chen stood silently, tears continuing to fall as she watched Officer Ramirez tend to her baby. Whatever her story was, Mercer knew it was far more complicated than a simple smuggling attempt. No one risked bringing a concealed weapon through international customs with their infant strapped above it without profound desperation or fear. "Miss Chen," Mercer said, "we need to know the truth now. Why were you bringing this weapon into the country? And whose safety were you concerned about?" 3 hours later, Mercer sat across from Melissa Chen in the airport's secure interview room. The stark fluorescent lighting emphasized the dark circles under her eyes and the tear tracks on her cheeks. Her handcuffs had been removed, a cup of untouched coffee cooling on the table before her. In the adjacent room, Officer Ramirez remained with baby Benjamin, who had been examined by airport medical staff and declared healthy though dehydrated and exhausted. Agent Diana Powell from Homeland Security had joined the interview, adding her expertise in human trafficking and domestic violence cases that crossed international borders. "Ms. Chen," Mercer began, Angel lying alertly at his feet. "The weapon you were transporting has been identified as stolen from a gun shop in Tacoma last year. The penalties for international weapon smuggling are severe, 20 years minimum. If you're involved with arms trafficking, cooperation now is your best option." She looked up, her eyes hollow with exhaustion, but suddenly fierce. "I'm not a weapons dealer. I was trying to protect my son." "From what?" "From his father," she replied, her voice breaking slightly. "His name is Robert Keller. We met in Seattle 4 years ago when I was working as a translator for a tech company. He was charming, successful, everything I thought I wanted." She paused, struggling to maintain composure. "The abuse started after we were married. Small things at first, controlling my schedule, isolating me from friends. Then it became physical." "Why didn't you report it?" Mercer asked, though he knew the common reasons. "I did once," she replied bitterly. The responding officers were his friends from his security company. Nothing happened except he punished me worse afterward. He has connections everywhere. Police, border patrol, private security. He told me no one would believe me. And he was right. And the baby? Powell asked. When I discovered I was pregnant, I thought it would change him. It made him worse. Said a child would ensure I could never leave him. When Benjamin was born 5 months ago. 5 months? Mercer interrupted. Your documentation says 7 months. I altered his birth certificate. Robert has been searching for us since I left. I changed everything I could. Continue about when Benjamin was born, Powell encouraged. Robert became obsessed with controlling every aspect of his care. He installed cameras in the nursery, tracked my phone, followed me to pediatrician appointments. Then one night, I overheard him on the phone planning to take Benjamin to his parents in Alaska without me. He said I was an unfit mother and he had evidence to prove it. She took another sip of coffee, her hand steadier now. I knew then I had to leave. My parents are in Seoul. My real parents, not the fake background I created in my customs declaration. I used cash to buy tickets, left in the middle of the night while Robert was on a business trip. And the gun? Mercer asked. Robert has firearms everywhere. I took one from his collection before I left. I knew if he found us. She didn't finish the sentence. I couldn't leave it in Seoul with my parents, and I was afraid to fly without protection. I know it was stupid, but I was desperate. Why come back to the U.S.? Powell questioned. Why not stay in South Korea? My visa was expiring. As a Korean citizen who gave up residency years ago, I could only stay temporarily. My parents are elderly. They couldn't come with me. I was planning to establish a new identity in Canada. I have contacts there who could help Benjamin and me disappear. The story aligned with the evidence they'd gathered. Her passport contained a Korean citizenship stamp, not American as she'd initially portrayed. Calls to South Korean authorities had confirmed her parents' existence and corroborated parts of her timeline. Ms. Chen, Powell said carefully, we need to verify your claims about Robert Keller. Do you have documentation of the abuse? Police reports? Medical records? Anything? She reached up to touch her cross necklace, a gesture Mercer had noticed repeatedly. The evidence is right here, she said quietly, twisting the gold cross to reveal a tiny USB drive built into its base. Videos from our home security system, hospital records I managed to download, financial documents showing how he controlled all our accounts. Everything. Powell took the USB drive, promising to review it immediately. I understand why you felt you needed protection, Mercer said. But bringing an unsecured weapon beneath your baby. I know, she interrupted, fresh tears welling. I've replayed that decision 1,000 times. I was so focused on getting away that I didn't think clearly about the risks to Benjamin. The stroller was the only place Robert would never search if he found us. He never once changed a diaper or adjusted Benjamin's car seat. He considered baby care women's work. Mercer exchanged glances with Powell. They both recognized the hallmarks of genuine domestic violence cases, the detailed explanations, the mixture of clear planning and desperate decisions, the hidden evidence. What happens now? Melissa asked, her voice small. Will I lose Benjamin? That depends on what we verify, Powell replied honestly. Weapon smuggling is a federal offense, but there are provisions for extreme circumstances. If your allegations are substantiated, we can involve domestic violence advocates and potentially arrange protective measures. He'll find us, Melissa whispered. He always said if I ever left, he'd find me and take Benjamin. Said no court would give custody to an unstable foreign woman over an American businessman with resources. Mercer felt Angel shift at his feet. The Malinois, having remained attentive throughout the interview, made perfect sense now. She hadn't just detected the weapon, but had sensed the woman's genuine fear and the baby's discomfort. "Miss Chen," Mercer said, making a decision he hoped he wouldn't regret. "I believe you, and I promise we'll do everything possible to keep you and Benjamin safe while we investigate. But you need to trust the process and be completely honest with us moving forward." For the first time since they had encountered her, Melissa's expression showed something beyond fear, a fragile hope that perhaps this time someone would actually help. The fluorescent lights buzzed like angry hornets as Melissa Chen's confession hung in the air. Angel's ears twitched at a frequency only she could hear, a low vibration creeping through the concrete floor. Mercer felt it too, the primal warning crawling up his spine before his brain could process why. "He's not just here," Melissa whispered, her fingers leaving crescent moons in her palms. "He's inside the building." Powell's tablet screen reflected in her widened pupils as security feeds flickered. "How do you—" "The lights." Melissa pointed to the ceiling fixtures now pulsing irregularly. "He does this. Cuts power to scramble cameras first. At our house in Seattle, it always meant—" Her throat clicked as she swallowed. A metallic screech echoed through the ventilation system, the sound of a service door being forced. Angel's hackles rose, her entire body vibrating with a growl that started in her gut. Mercer's radio crackled to life with garbled static before dying again. "Powell, get them to the safe room. Now." He drew his weapon, the click of the safety echoing in the sudden silence. Melissa clutched Benjamin closer, the baby's whimpers muffled against her chest. "You don't understand. He won't come through the doors. He'll—" The explosion wasn't loud, just a pressurized hiss from the air vents. White vapor billowed into the room like phantom fingers. Angel sneezed violently, shaking her head as the odor of bitter almonds filled the space. "Gas." Powell slammed her elbow into the emergency glass case, grabbing breather masks. Tear gas mixed with— The hallway door burst inward, not from gunfire or brute force, but from 90 pounds of muscle and fur in a tactical K9 vest. The German shepherd's yellow eyes locked onto Angel with predatory focus. "Brutus," Melissa choked out, stumbling backward. "Robert's prize attack dog. He—" The shepherd charged without a sound. No bark, no snarl, just lethal efficiency honed by a master who understood silence was deadlier than noise. Angel met the attack mid-leap. The collision of bodies sounded like a car crash. Teeth flashed as they rolled, a whirlwind of snapping jaws and tearing fabric. Mercer raised his sidearm but couldn't get a clean shot, until the shepherd broke away suddenly, darting between Powell's legs toward Melissa. Angel intercepted in a blur of black fur, her teeth closing around the attack dog's vest strap. The tactical material ripped away, revealing something that made Mercer's blood freeze. A blinking red light taped to Brutus's chest. "Bomb dog." Mercer tackled Powell and Melissa to the ground as Angel body slammed the shepherd into the bulletproof observation window. The devices on Brutus's vest detonated, not with fire and shrapnel, but with an electromagnetic pulse that plunged the room into darkness and fried every electronic within 50 yards. In the ringing silence, new sounds emerged. Boots moving in formation down the hallway, the distinctive ratchet of assault rifles being charged, and worst of all, Robert Keller's voice humming a lullaby from the ventilation shaft above. "Melissa, Melissa." The grating sing-song voice dripped with false warmth. "You didn't really think a customs dog could protect you from me?" Benjamin began wailing as a ventilation panel clattered to the floor. A gloved hand emerged, dangling a familiar gold chain, Melissa's cross necklace with the USB drive. "Cute trick with the evidence, but you forgot one thing." The chain snapped. "I always check your jewelry." Angel's growl deepened as a figure dropped into the room. Not Robert, but a man in full tactical gear, his face obscured by a gas mask. He raised a pistol fitted with a long suppressor directly at Melissa. The gunshot was deafening in the enclosed space. But it wasn't the masked man who fell. From the smoke-filled hallway, a single round had struck the gunman between the eyes. As his body crumpled, floodlights suddenly blazed to life, revealing a SWAT team advancing through the gas with infrared goggles. And standing in the shattered doorway, covered in soot and holding a smoking rifle, was Supervisor Garcia. "Did you really think," he panted, "we wouldn't notice an unauthorized K-9 unit entering my airport?" Beyond him, 3 more officers restrained a cursing Robert Keller, his custom-tailored suit now torn and bloodied. "You're dead, Melissa!" he screamed as they dragged him away. "You and that brat are—" Another EMP device detonated somewhere outside, cutting his threats short. In the renewed darkness, Mercer felt Angel press against his leg, her wet nose nudging his hand as if to say, "We're not done yet." Because beneath the crackle of dying radios and shouted commands, one sound stood out: the faint but unmistakable beep of another countdown timer coming from the direction of Terminal D. 6 months later, Mercer parked his SUV outside a modest house in a quiet Seattle suburb. Angel sat up in the back seat, recognizing their location with a soft whine of anticipation. "Yes, we're visiting them," Mercer confirmed, smiling at his partner's enthusiasm. "But remember, best behavior around Benjamin." The front door opened before they reached it, revealing Melissa looking healthier than he'd ever seen her. Her face relaxed, her eyes clear. In her arms, Benjamin gurgled happily, waving chubby hands at their visitors. "Officer Mercer." "Angel," she greeted, genuine warmth in her voice. "Please, come in." The home was small but comfortable, with toys scattered across the living room floor and children's books stacked on the coffee table. Photos showed Benjamin with his grandparents, who had received emergency visas during the legal proceedings. "How are you both settling in?" Mercer asked. "Better each week," she replied, watching as Angel cautiously approached Benjamin, lying down at a respectful distance while the baby regarded her with fascination. The restraining order was extended again, and Robert's bail was revoked after he tried to contact me through a coworker. The evidence on Melissa's USB drive had proven extensive and damning. Security footage showed multiple instances of physical abuse. Robert shoving her into walls, dragging her by her hair, once even striking her while she was holding newborn Benjamin. Financial records revealed systematic isolation and control, with Robert limiting her access to their joint accounts and monitoring every purchase. Medical records documented accidents that clearly weren't, including a broken wrist and multiple bruises that hospital staff had noted as suspicious. Most damning were recorded phone conversations where Robert discussed using his connections to have Melissa deported if she ever tried to leave, including plans to report her as an unfit mother based on fabricated evidence. The investigation had expanded to include Robert's security company, uncovering corruption extending to several local law enforcement officials who had buried previous reports. Federal charges for witness intimidation and evidence tampering had been added to the domestic violence case. As for Melissa, the weapons charge hadn't been dismissed, but given the extraordinary circumstances, the U.S. attorney had agreed to a plea arrangement: probation, community service, and mandatory counseling, with the possibility of expungement after 3 years. "I've been meaning to ask," Mercer said, accepting the coffee Melissa offered. "Why did you name him Benjamin? Is there a family connection?" She smiled, watching her son interact with Angel. "In Hebrew, Benjamin means son of my right hand." In Korean tradition, the right hand represents protection. Even during the worst times, I believe someone would protect us when I couldn't protect myself. Her gaze shifted to Angel. I just never expected that someone would have 4 legs. I'm getting a dog, she added, from a program that matches rescued shelter dogs with women leaving abusive situations. That's an excellent idea, Mercer nodded. The trainers say having a dog changes everything, not just the practical security, but the emotional support when you're starting over. She watched Benjamin gently stroking Angel's fur. Men like Robert target women they can isolate. A dog is a connection that can't be controlled. As they prepared to leave, Melissa hesitated at the door. The security system is being installed tomorrow. The new identities are almost ready. Once we relocate to the confidential address, I won't be able to maintain contact. Mercer understood. He reached into his pocket and handed her a business card with no name, just a phone number. If you ever need anything, anything at all, call this number. It goes straight to me. Melissa tucked the card away carefully, then surprised him with a hug. Thank you, she whispered, for believing me, for seeing through the lies. Angel gave a soft whine, nudging Benjamin's tiny hand with her nose one last time before following Mercer to the car. As they drove away, Mercer glanced in the rearview mirror to see Melissa still standing in the doorway, holding Benjamin's waving hand in hers, watching until their car disappeared from sight. The next morning, Mercer received a single text from an unknown number. "We're safe. Thank you both." Attached was a photo of Benjamin, smiling in his crib, clutching a small stuffed dog that looked remarkably like Angel. Mercer showed it to his partner. Angel tilted her head, then gave a satisfied huff through her nose before settling down for her morning nap. The case, finally, truly closed. The witness protection aspects of her case required complete severance from her previous life, including the officers involved in her case. Mercer studied the quiet street one last time, memorizing the way the afternoon light filtered through the maple trees in Melissa's front yard. He knew this would be their final meeting. "You're going to be fine," he assured her, his voice rougher than he intended. The words hung between them, weighted with all the unspoken dangers still lurking at the edges of her new beginning. "Both of you," she corrected gently, shifting Benjamin higher on her hip. The baby had grown noticeably since their first encounter at the airport, his cheeks rounder, his grip stronger as he clutched a corner of Melissa's blouse. "Because of you," she added, then turned her attention downward, "and especially because of her." She knelt carefully, balancing Benjamin with practiced ease until she was at eye level with Angel. The Malinois sat at perfect attention, her amber eyes locked on Melissa's face with that uncanny focus that had first revealed the hidden weapon beneath the stroller. "Thank you," Melissa whispered, one hand steadying Benjamin while the other hovered near Angel's muzzle, "for seeing past what I was doing, to why I was doing it." Her voice broke slightly on the last words. "Thank you for saving us both." Angel responded not with her usual disciplined restraint, but with a deliberate, gentle nudge of her nose against Melissa's trembling fingers, a gesture that needed no translation. Benjamin squealed with delight at the interaction, his tiny hand reaching for Angel's ears. Mercer felt something tighten in his chest as he watched the exchange. 6 months ago, this woman had been a suspect. This dog, her unwitting adversary. Now they shared a bond forged in survival, a silent understanding that would outlast their forced separation. The drive back to headquarters passed in quiet reflection. At a red light, Mercer glanced at Angel in the rearview mirror. Her usual alert posture had softened slightly, her chin resting on the seat back as she gazed out the window. "You knew she wasn't a criminal from the start, didn't you?" Mercer murmured. The dog's ears twitched at his voice. You sensed she was protecting her baby, not smuggling for profit. Angel exhaled through her nose in that particular way she had. Not quite a sigh, more an acknowledgement. In the mirror, her expression seemed to convey both wisdom and innocence simultaneously, a living reminder that sometimes the truest understanding comes not from words or forensic evidence, but from instincts honed through centuries of partnership between species. It made Mercer wonder how often humans missed vital truths because we'd forgotten how to trust the primal awareness still humming beneath our civilized surfaces. How many threats go undetected because we dismiss that chill down our spines as imagination? How many cries for help do we overlook because they don't come in words? Animals possess this uncanny ability to read situations beyond human perception, the way a dog tenses before a seizure strikes or a cat hides before an earthquake trembles. They remind us that intelligence takes countless forms and that survival sometimes depends on senses we've neglected but they've preserved. As the precinct came into view, Mercer's radio crackled with a new dispatch. Another flight landing, another stream of passengers to screen. Routine work resumed, but the questions lingered. What would you have done in Melissa's position? Would you have risked everything to protect your child, even knowing the legal consequences could separate you permanently? Could you have made that impossible choice between breaking the law and protecting the innocent? If this extraordinary story of courage, instinct, and redemption touched you, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more remarkable K9 tales. Press the notification bell so you never miss our new uploads, each one showcasing the incredible bond between customs dogs and their handlers. Share this video with friends and family who appreciate true stories of heroism that unfold in the unlikeliest places, proving that sometimes salvation comes on four paws.